In the quiet village of Umwenze, surrounded by the thick forests of eastern Nigeria, lived a young woman named Adanna. Her beauty was unmatched, her laughter like the song of the morning bird, and her heart as pure as the stream that flowed nearby. Many men sought her hand in marriage, but Adanna had never felt the pull of true love. She enjoyed her life as it was, filled with family and communion of the village. But as the years passed, the village began to notice something strange about Adanna's life. Despite her beauty and kindness, none of her suitors ever succeeded in winning her heart. There were whispers, quiet conversations in corners about what might be happening. Some thought Adana was too picky, while others suspected something more sinister at play. But no one knew the truth, not even Adana. In the dead of night, when the village was still, Adana was plagued by strange dreams. A figure would appear in the shadow of her mind, a tall, dark man with eyes that glowed like embers in the darkness. His name was Akuchi, and he was no ordinary man. He was a spirit, a being of the other world who had laid claim to Adana from the moment she was born. He would speak to her in a voice that chilled her to the bone. What I want is finally here, Adana. Your beauty is unmatched and you're my wife. He would say, I will ensure that you meet no harm as long as you remain with me. These dreams left Adana shaking, but she dismissed them as nothing more than nightmares. She did not understand the depth of Akuchi's power, nor the lengths he would go to keep her bound to him. The first suitor to try and win Adana's heart was Obinna, a strong and gentle farmer who had admired Adana from afar for many years. He approached her with gifts of woven baskets and fresh produce, hoping to court her in the traditional way. Adana was charmed by Obinna's kindness and sincerity, and for a time she thought she might finally be ready to marry. But Akuchi would not allow it. The moment he sensed that Obinna was beginning to get into Adana's heart, Akuchi appeared before him, his form dark and menacing. I take it you are a man of honor and will not dip your hands in another man's soup, Akuchi said, his voice like the rumble of distant thunder. She's not for you. I have already been married to her. Obinna woke in a cold sweat, his heart pounding with fear. The next day, Obinna had visited his friend Okafo, who is a soothsayer, to explain the dreams he had been having. Okafo told Obinna that Adana has a spirit husband and it will cost him too much if he insists on marrying her. Obinna took the words of his friend. He informed Adana of what he has learned and cancelled every plan he had of marrying her. I'm sorry, Adana, but this is not the life I wish for myself. This is not my battle, he said and walked away. Adana was heartbroken, confused by his words. She had thought Obinna experienced cold feet, but soon moved on, believing it simply wasn't meant to be. The second suitor was Emeka, a skilled hunter known for his bravery and sharp wit. He had heard of Adana's beauty and was determined to win her heart. He brought her the finest game from the forest, sharing tales of his hunts and his love for the wild. Adana found herself drawn to Emeka's adventurous spirit, and she began to think that perhaps he could be the one. Things were just beginning to get good. But once again, Akuche intervened. Every night he visits Emeka, appearing at the foot of his bed like a shadowy phantom. At first, he tried to intimidate Emeka as he did to Obinna, but Emeka was stubborn and would not concede. You will not have her, Akuchi hissed, his eye burning with a fierce light. She is mine, and I will destroy anyone who tries to take her from me. Emeka has faced many terrible monstrosities in the forest, but none has posed as much challenge as Akuchi. He was relentless, with each of his actions becoming more threatening to Emeka's life than the previous. Emeka felt like a prey to Akuchi. He tormented him so much he couldn't tell the difference between his dreams, reality, or illusion anymore. The village began to notice the changes in Emeka's attitude. He seems to be losing his mind. Even Adana was worried, but Emeka was determined. Do not fear, he will never win, he'd say, keeping Adana at ease. Emeka left for a hunt one night and never came back. Days turned into months, and then years went by, and no one heard from him again. Adana cried for months. She loved Emeka with all her heart. Everyone became suspicious of what was going on. That was when the rumor started in the village about Adana's spirit husband. Every man that was interested in her became skeptical on hearing the stories. For those that were willing to proceed with Adana despite the stories, she pushes them away for the fear that Akuchi will hurt them. There was Chinedu the blacksmith's son, Nnamdi the village storyteller, and Ejike the craftsman. Adana grew more and more hopeless. She didn't know what to do. Adana's parents began to seek help from the villagers. However, no one seemed to be able to offer a solution. In her heart, Adana felt a growing sense of dread. The dreams of Akuchi were becoming more vivid, more real. She could feel his cold touch, hear his sinister laughter, and see the darkness in his eyes as he claimed her over and over again. She was trapped, bound to a spirit she had never chosen, and she saw no way out. But then one day, a stranger arrived in Umweze. His name was Chidi, a traveler who had come to visit his relative in the village. He was warm and made people feel at ease. His years of traveling has impacted his character significantly, a man that is wiser than his age suggests. When he met Adana, he was struck by her beauty, but also by the sadness in her eyes. He resolved to bring back her smile, no matter what it took. Chidi began to court Adana with a patience and kindness that she had not known in a long time. He would sit with her under the shade of the great Iroko tree, sharing stories of his travels and listening to her talk about her life in the village. Adana had attempted to push him away several times. She tried to disgust him, insult him, scare him, and humiliate him, but Chidi will not budge. Every tactic she had employed against the other suitors failed to work on Chidi. Eventually, she began to open to him, her heart responding to his gentle presence. But Akuchi was always watching, always waiting. He knew that Chidi was different, and so he began to plan, to prepare himself for a confrontation that would determine the fate of Adana's heart. And so, as the days turned into weeks, Chidi and Adana grew closer. Their bond deepening with each passing moment. Everything seemed to be working out fine until Chidi met Adana's family to ask for her hand in marriage. The night after the meeting, Akuchi made his first appearance to Chidi. However, he was expecting it. After all, Adana had told him the stories of every man that had ever approached her. Chidi refused to bend to Akuchi's demand, stating that Adana was not his to claim, and if he wanted to be with Adana, he should cut her like the rest of them. Akuchi knew Chidi was right. He argued so eloquently that it made Akuchi angry. You are a foolish young man and you deserve what is coming for you, he threatened. Chidi met his relative and narrated the incident to them. His relatives met Adana's family to look for a way out for their children. That was when they started going around the village meeting one priest after another, from wizard to wizard, looking for help. As the days passed and the challenges from Akuchi grew more severe, it became clear that Adana and Chidi could not face the spirit alone. Akuchi was as relentless as ever, determined to break their bond. The family of Adana and Chidi, who had been tirelessly looking for solutions, finally encountered an old man named Obi. Obi is perhaps the oldest man in the village. He was the father of Ekene, who is a friend to Chidi's uncle, Okechukwu. Did someone mention Akuchi? His husky voice came from the hut to interrupt the conversation between the two friends. When I was a boy, my great grandmother told me stories of many years ago when the land faced threats from the neighboring villages. He continued as Okechukwu and Ekene listened attentively. A warmonger goes around conquering one village after another till it got to ours. We knew that we would not be able to fight them in a battle. The king of the time decided to seek the help of Dibia Ibe, the spirit whisperer, to help us convince the spirit of the land to fight with us. After talking to every spirit in the land, one of them decided to help us. His name was Akuchi. The ritual demanded by Akuchi was done, and a pact was made between the village and Akuchi. Akuchi terrorized our enemies in their dreams, turning their fears into reality until they ran away and left the village alone. The village thought about giving Akuchi a gift: plant products, animals, wines, cowries, and other shining resources anyone can only dream of in Umweze. But Akuchi was not interested in anything in the village. So the king promised Akuchi that if he ever needs anything, he should let him know. As long as it is within his power, he shall let Akuchi have it. He agreed. Years passed and no one heard from Akuchi again. On his deathbed, the king did not forget to remind Dibia Ibe about his promise to Akuchi. However, throughout his lifetime, Dibia Ibe never saw Akuchi again. Everyone moved on, thinking Akuchi was really not interested in any resources the village has to offer. If you have a problem with Akuchi, I think the best place to go will be the edge of the evil forest where the descendants of Dibia Ibe carried out their practices, as you'll be advised. Okechukwu thanked the old man, now rushed to meet Okafor, Adanna's father, and together they embarked on a journey to the edge of the evil forest. The two men traveled for days through dense forests and across winding rivers until they reached the secluded place at the edge of the evil forest where a man named Dibia Udo lived. He was the great 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 grandson of Dibia Ibe. Just like his ancestors, he was known for his deep knowledge of the spirit world and his ability to bridge the gap between their world and that of humans. When they arrived, Dibia Udo welcomed them with a knowing smile. He was young, but his eyes were glimmering with wisdom on par with the elders. I have seen the troubles that plagued your children, he said, his voice calm and deep. The spirit Akuchi is powerful, but not invincible. My ancestors predict something like this would happen and we found a way to resolve it. He explained that the spirits are very strong and also very cunning. There is a reason Akuchi waited for so long before acting. He said, all Akuchi wanted at the time was the king's promise. However, King Ebe was a wise man. He never made a promise he couldn't keep. He had told Akuchi that if what he wanted was within his power, he will provide it for him. Akuchi was not happy with this because he couldn't ask for the kingdom since it will not be within the king's power. He waited so long until all is forgotten to ask. That way, there will be no reason for the village to deny him since he will be the only one that remembers. Debiaudo did not linger on the topic and explained to them what should be done. The marriage between Adana and Chidi must be done immediately you get back to the village. He listed a bunch of sacrifices, a grain to be sprayed in the river, a pig to be slaughtered and left in the evil forest, and finally, wine for the gods. Okechukwu and Okafu conducted these sacrifices before leaving the place with Dibia Udo. Their goal is to get home on time so that the marriage can take place. While the families were away seeking solution, Akuchi's attack on the couple was becoming more ruthless. One night, as Adanna and Chidi were sitting by the fire, Akuchi appeared in the flames, his voice full of malice. Do you think you can define me? He hissed. You will never be rid of me. Adanna, I will make your life a living hell until you return to me. And you, Chidi, will suffer for your defiance. I will not rest until you are broken. Chidi had been sick for weeks now. He sees Akuchi wherever he looked. Akuchi replaces his food with sand. One night, while he was asleep, Akuchi attempted to fall his hut on him. Chidi was only safe because he had stepped out to ease himself. The strain of Akuchi's relentless attack began to wear on Adanna. She could see the fear in Chidi's eyes, the toll it was taking on him. She could sense his determination wavering. She began to doubt whether they could truly defeat the spirit. Her heart can't handle it if anything happens to Chidi. He's suffering so much all because he wants to marry her. In one of her dreams, Akuchi came to her as angry as ever. I can understand why you won't let me be, but why do you have to keep doing this to Chidi? She asked. I'm only trying to keep what is mine from being taken from me, Akuchi replied with his thundering voice. But I'm not yours. I didn't choose you. Why can't you just leave me alone? Adanna cried. Blame the ancestors that gave you away long before you were born, Akuchi insisted. What about Chidi? Did his ancestors give him away to you as well? Adanna asked. She has become more daring towards Akuchi recently. He believes it's because Chidi's eloquence is rubbing off on her. He's a thief and he deserves everything coming his way. He should thank his fortune for every breath he is taking right now. The other man was stronger and more stubborn. He died in the end, didn't he? If he doesn't back out, he will meet the same fate. Akuchi warned. He was talking about Emeka, the brave hunter. Adana woke up in tears. She thought she had moved on from what happened to Emeka, but now that Akuchi admitted to being responsible for his death, Adana couldn't control her emotions anymore. That was when she made her decision to leave Chidi before the same thing happens to him. I can't do this anymore, she said, tears streaming down her face. I can't watch you suffer because of me. Maybe it's best if I leave. If I go far away so that Akuchi can stop tormenting you. Chidi was shocked. His heart broke at the sight of Adanna's despair. He knew something had happened. What happened, Adanna? He asked, taking his hand in hers. He killed him. He killed Emeka. He told me himself. Chidi knew what she was talking about. They had spent the early days of their friendship discussing Emeka, how he was insane, and his sudden disappearance. Chidi saw how much Adana loved Emeka. Whenever she talks about him, she cries so hard like the incident was just yesterday. I understand, said Chidi. This is how you want to live your life after all. Emeka sounded like someone Chidi would have admired very much. So he stood up to walk away, but then he chose to let out his mind. Too bad that he would have been disappointed, he exclaimed. This shocked Adana because it sounded like Chidi was angry, an emotion she has never seen on him before. He endured a lot trying to stay strong. He stood firm against Akuchi and will not give ground even when it's driving him insane. All because he wanted you to have better life. And we are finally so close to achieving that. And you are scared? Adana knows that Chidi was saying the truth. But what if you die? I can't bear that, Adana asked. I'm still alive, aren't I? Chidi asked in return to silent Adana. I can't tell you not to worry about the future, but at the end of the day, we live in the present. Adana started crying again. Maybe Emeka might have felt the same way she thought. I'm sorry, she said. Please forgive me, my love, she cried, hugging Chidi tightly. I was scared because I don't want to lose you too, she cried. And you won't, Chidi replied. 8 days after Okechukwu and Nkafo left on a journey, they finally returned with Dibia Udo. Chidi's health had deteriorated to the degree where he can't even stand without support. Without delay, the wedding was scheduled for the following day. Normally, the girl's family were supposed to make some demands from the man before the marriage could proceed, but given the circumstances, Okafor was willing to accept just the bride price, a keg of wine and kola nut. The invitation got out to the neighbors that night through the town crier, and the marriage was scheduled to be in the morning of the next day. Okechukwu's compound was filled with family and friends, reflecting the communal cooperation of Umwenze. The marriage rites began. The exhaustion in Chidi's face is apparent, but his perseverance was about to pay off. Adana was given the wine to present to her potential husband from the crowd of people. She was able to locate Chidi, and just when she was about to give him the drink, the cloud turned dark and the lightning started. A man suddenly got out from the crowd of people. I will not allow this, he said. His tone was deafening, and he strode forward at a speed almost superhuman. Nice of you to join us, Akuchi, said Dibia Udo. An uproar erupted from the crowd. Everyone in the village at this point is aware of Adana's spirit husband. Of course, he is currently possessing another man named Eze, a drunkard. The king promised that I can have whatever I wanted. Why are you all denying me? Said Akuchi. If what you say is true, wouldn't it be wise to wait for the king to show up? Dibia Udo questioned. That man is a thief. He's trying to take my property. Why are you making me look like the villain? Akuchi said, pointing at weakened Chidi. Property? Exclaimed Okafo. My daughter is no one's property and will never be anyone's property. I can torment this village, turn your lives into an unlivable hell. I'm Akuchi, the master manipulator, the bringer of nightmares. Aren't you afraid of me? He said as he turned around to look at everyone in the crowd. Of course, the crowd was scared of him. His voice alone is enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. This was what Emeka dealt with. This is what GD is currently dealing with. And this is what Adana dealt with all her life. The villagers wondered. Ah, the threat, Dibiaudo exclaimed. And on what basis will you be attacking our village that we refuse to let you violate one of our own? Have we caused you any damage? Have we offended you in any way? Asked Dibiaudo. Yes, you have, replied Akuchi. You are offending me right now, he said in an angry tone. Then why haven't you done any of the things you mentioned? Dibia Udo asked. Akuchi was silent. The silence was broken by Chidi's weak laughter. Hehehe. Akuchi, you are in the wrong, can't you see? I was promised. I want to claim my gift. She is mine. The king told me I could have her. And who gave her to you? Akuchi was interrupted by a man who was just arriving at the wedding with his guards.
The moment everyone saw him, they bowed. Igwe, they shouted. He waved his unicorn tail to bless his subject as he walked to the center of the stage. As far as I can tell, my great 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 grandfather did not promise you this girl, said the king. He did. He promised to give me whatever I wanted, and I wanted her. Why can't I have her? Nakuchi said in frustration. You seem to forget the part where he also said, if it's within my power. Remember? The king replied. Then command her to be mine. I want her, said Akuchi. I can't command the heart, Akuchi, the king replied. What you are after is a heart of a young maiden. I can't command it because it is not mine to give, the king concluded. What do you mean? She's right here. You can tell her to come with me. Akuchi pointed at Adana, who has been quiet so far. She was standing in front of Chidi. The king looked in that direction and smiled. Adana, what happened to the drink you were supposed to give the person you want to marry? He asked, knowing what the answer will be. Igwe, while Akuchi was talking, I gave it to Chidi. Here, he drank it. Adana replied. The king looked at Akuchi, who understood what just happened, and gnashed his tooth in anger. As you can see, Akuchi, she already belonged to someone else. Her heart had always been his, and now she is too, the king said. You all will suffer, Akuchi explained. I don't think so. As a matter of fact, you have been banished from this land, never to set foot in it again, the king replied. You can't do that. I will destroy you, Akuchi shouted. As a matter of fact, we can. To everyone's surprise, Bibi Audu replied, when my great 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 grandfather made the deal with you to help us fight the war, the sacrifices you requested for were met, and his conditions were that you protect everyone that lives in peace with Umwenze and destroy the enemies of the land. You broke the pact, remember? Dibia Udo said. The tears in Adana's eyes speak volume. You killed Emeka and tried to kill Chidi, she said. At this moment, Akuchi was stunned. Do you remember what the punishment for whoever break the pact was? Dibia Udo asked. The other party is free to do whatever they want with the offender. If the offender refuses to cooperate, they will die. Akuchi's tone was weak for the first time since he came out. That is correct, the king said. I am not going to pretend like your help was not crucial in that war. As such, I can't wish you death. However, you will never step foot in Umwenze again, and you will never bring harm to any of our loved ones again. Your life is in your hands now, Akuchi, the king said authoritatively. His voice has been firm since he came into the wedding ground. I understand, said Akuchi. His eyes moved around one more time before Eze dropped to the ground, signifying that Akuchi has left his body. Adana couldn't feel Akuchi's presence anymore, and she was thankful because she knows that he will never bother her again. The king faced the Okechuku, Okeke, and the other family members of the couple and tendered his apology for not realizing what was going on for years. He faced the couple and gave them his deepest apology, as well as blessing them with a lot of gifts. Finally, he approached the family of Emeka to offer his condolences and apology for everything that Emeka went through. As far as I'm concerned, he's a hero that died for this kingdom, he said. He organized a proper funeral for him and made sure that his parents and siblings would be provided for. It was a bittersweet day for the Umueze kingdom, as many people left the wedding with tears in their eyes. The following morning, Emeka's funeral was held at the village cemetery. No one could have predicted that Emeka's death would be the key to Akuchi's banishment. Akuchi was so blinded by jealousy that he had forgotten about the binding ritual. After killing Emeka, he came back to his senses, but he thought as long as no one found that he would be okay. The sacrifices made by Okechukwu and Okafo at Dibia Udo was accepted by the oracles, and they made him make the mistake of telling Adana what happened to Emeka. 10 months later, Adana gave birth to a son. Chidi named him Emeka, the bravest man he never met. No one ever heard of Akuchi again. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a like and subscribe. And if you have any question regarding the story, drop it in the comment below and I will address them as best as I can. Thank you very much. Have a good day.